Series are awesome, and I always have a ton of series going on. But today, I want to talk about some of the standalones I own that I need to read or would like to fit in sometime soon. So, what's going on, Average Joes? Welcome back. Thank you for coming and watching my videos. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Do all those good, wonderful things. I really appreciate the interaction, the feedback, the supporting and watching my videos. Hopefully, I can still keep on doing this for a while, and because I am still enjoying doing so. So appreciate all of that. I just wanted to say that I just recently crossed 200 subscribers. So thank you for everyone who has been watching, subscribing, and otherwise, whether it's sharing my videos or whatnot. But today, I want to talk about the some uh, standalone books that I own, whether physical on Kindle or what have you. But I want to get to. So I know I read a ton of series. That's the bulk of my reading, and just in fantasy and sci-fi in general. Typically, it's always centered around series, but there's still a bunch of awesome standalones to get to, and they're not all like hard fantasy. Typically, you won't find as many standalones in fantasy because they're just authors are typically building a giant world or what have you. But I've amassed a decent collection here of plenty of standalones or just one-off books that I want to read, I want to get to. So I'm going to structure this video as I'm going to do physical copies first, and I'm going to do Kindle books next, and then I have not done Kindle Unlimited one, so I will try and pick out some Kindle Unlimited books as well to go over. And the first ones that I want to go over, and also this is a slight, not quite an update, but life hack slash update slash whatever. It goes along with my first two. And if you watched recently my book haul video, I was in California for a while, and I went to a bookstore. I got a little excited, bought a whole bunch of books, but I still had to mail them back to myself. So I did that book haul while I was still in my hotel, and then I had to mail them back to me. So the hack or life advice thing is, when you go travel, go buy some books, enjoy the haul, enjoy the books, touch them, smell them, feel them, then mail them to yourself. And then a couple weeks later, you get to open up again and you just haul the same books twice. So feel free to do that. But so my books came in. That's basically it. My books came in finally. So I got to look at them again. And I always tend to forget which books I've bought. But the first two that I want to talk about, because there's just too many to talk about with them, Michael Crichton and Stephen King. Obviously, I just finally bought a ton of Michael Crichton on that haul. Here's just a handful of them. I got a whole box of Michael Crichton, and so Michael Crichton 100%. I want to fit in because they can just fit in wherever. They're usually pretty fast reads. I think the first one I'm going to read of his is Rising Sun, maybe in November. I think that's when Mike's channel is doing that read along or what have you. Or here he's just reading it. So I think that's the one I want to go to. I don't know why. It's super random why I would start there, but who cares? And then Stephen King, once again, I need to continue with that. I'm still on Insomnia and or The Stand, so it'll probably be Insomnia first. It's just those are two pretty big books, and it's just hard to convince myself to fit those big books in, especially because of all of the series that I'm reading on my Kindle that I need to fit in, and joining two or however many buddy reads on top of what I just want to get to read. So yeah, those are kind of unfortunately getting pushed down some, but either way, Michael Crichton, Stephen King, they're just going to be on the list. Okay, moving on. Haruki Murakami, A Wild Sheep Chase. When I was Googling this author, because I actually got this when we were in Singapore, and I went to a bookstore. This was like my souvenir, and I really liked the cover. And there's a bunch of Murakami books there, and they were all they're all this same cover. And I was confused as to which one I wanted to start with. I think I'd had them on my list before, and this seemed to be a good place to start. It's kind of like a mixture of real life kind of fantasy, maybe sci-fi-ish. There's sci-fi elements in like our day and age, our world. I don't really know how to explain it. I know they're kind of strange, weird books in general from what I've heard, but I'd like to start and read my first Murakami book and see if I want to continue and see if I can even get a hold of the covers that look like this one, because I do like the simplistic black and red covers for it, but I'm not a huge stickler for it. And unfortunately, when I mailed it back to myself from Singapore, or when I brought it back, it got all bent up. But whatever. The story is still the same. Next, another very off the wall one that probably most people wouldn't have heard of, Master and Margarita. Not a whole lot I know about this one. I know it is Russian inspired. There's, you can see kind of like St. Petersburg. It looks like St. Petersburg, the buildings on it. This cover is awesome. It is really cool. It's got these deckled edge, which I never really understand why that was a thing. There's other fold outs, but it sounds like a really interesting read. I remember when I first heard about it, I was very much into it, and it was on my list for a while. I can't even find a synopsis on this thing, but heard a lot of cool things about it. And I like to kind of branch out and try new different things. I know, and I've never really written anything Russian or Russian inspired. So interested in that. I know I really liked the Scandinavian inspired and Scandinavian authors that I've read, which they're not the same thing, but still I like diving into these different styles of writing, styles of storytelling, to see what I might like and land on. Because I know, like, Scandinavian wise, I'm going to go back and read some of those because I just like what they do. Next, this one I don't know how many books, I don't know how many videos this one has I brought up on, but Doctor Strange, Myth and Norrell. And the more I put it on a list to read it, it just feels like it's getting farther and farther down. And every time I feel like I put it on a list, I see somebody come out with a video that say they read it, and most people are kind of lukewarm about it. It's probably going to be a book that I feel was X amount of pages too long. It might be a little fluffy. I might have to break it up some. Page count, it's pretty big. It's 850 pages or so. Word count's not too bad. It's not like teeny tiny squished words like it was for Count of Monte Cristo, but it's still big, pretty big, pretty fat boy. Very interested in this. I like this time period, this old fashions type, 1800s time period. So that I'm into London, and there's a little bit of magical realism to it. So it'll be kind of different in that regard. I probably won't get to this until next year, if I'm being honest, 2022, just because of all the other fatter reads that I have going on, or series. And I really do think I need to prioritize things like Stephen King, because I really need to continue with The Dark Tower. Like, I'm really dragging my feet, and every time people come out with their videos of them reading them, I'm like so jealous because I'm kind of in a standstill. Anyway, next big one here, a big name one, but probably one that will be easy to fit in. That's 451, however you want to say it. This one very, very interests me because it is dystopian, and it has to do with censorship and burning books. And books, a lot of books are now illegal, whether they're all are or whatnot. But these kinds of dystopian authoritarian societies usually interest me in books and fiction and such. We are watching Handmaid's Tale right now, and there's sort of that similar, very, very hard censorship. And it just kind of shows you how a little bit of censorship can grow over time, and how bad it can be. So this is 100% something that I wanted to read, especially because it's so popular. I know there was a movie made out of it. I never watched it, but it should be easy enough to fit in as well. I think it is 240 pages, not even, something like that. Next one's going to be a little bit of I don't know how many people know too much about it, but I love the cover, and a few of their books sounded really, really cool. And that is, I'll just say, Michael Chabon, something like that. This one's called Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. So it sounds like a very somewhat lighthearted, even though it's pretty thick. I like these kind of thick-ish paperbacks. Like, they're very, very fit in the hand very nicely. And it takes place in the 1940s in New York City, so another great era, and it even has old fashions in the synopsis. So that's I'm all for. Comic book age, so very comic booky style. I think there might be some sort of vigilante type of things going on. I read the synopsis, and it's one of those pretty vague synopsis that you don't really know what's happening. They don't give too much away. It's just kind of vague platitudes, but it sounds really cool, really, really fun. It looks like a really fun read. I've heard the writing style can be hard to get into at first, or even slow to get into this book or his reads, but it's something that it would be cool to just change up, and it'd be very different from anything else that I read. Anytime that's basically what the point of a palate cleanser is. If I'm always off into these fantastical worlds, with crazy things happening, going back to 1930s New York City might be kind of refreshing, even though it might be slow. It's still a familiar place in the world. So could be cool, very cool to read. Plus, it's like I said, it's nice to hold. The next one, I still have like probably like a month to do this, but I almost tortured myself and read Dry over the summer. For those of you who don't know where I live, I'm living in the Middle Eastern area, and the feels like temperatures regularly in the 115 to 120s ish range. The lowest it gets right now is like 105, feels like. So it's always hot as hell. Yeah, but I also really like Neil Shusterman. Well, really, I liked his Scythe, Arc of the Scythe trilogy. I really like that. So this is fast. I've heard really good things about it. It should be a really quick read. It's only 370 pages, so that should be fine. And definitely heard it makes you very thirsty. So to make it super atmospheric, it would make sense for me to read this when it's hot out, just to get the full experience. I mean, I read, not even intentionally, but I read The Drawing of the Three on a beach on vacation. And if you've ever read Drawing of the Three, you know what I mean by that. It was another level read. So it's on the list to do to something like that. Or I could just save it to winter and pretend like it's hotter. I don't know. We'll see. Next one, the last for physical books. This is technically a mystery, not even fantasy. And I plan on doing probably we're going to do one of these for mystery thrillers coming up just because I own so many of them. But I just wanted to bring it up anyway. The Box in the Woods. This is the sequel standalone book to Truly Devious, which is a fantastic trilogy mystery. I highly recommend it. I've brought up in a few different um, videos and lists and such. But this one takes place after Stevie Bell leaves school, and there's another mystery that she gets pulled into at a camp. And I think there's still going to be some flashbacks like there was in the first one, and these are always so very atmospheric and smart and clever, and I really do like Stevie as a main character. So this one would be really fun, and I think this would be a really fast read because if it's anything like the other ones, I mean, Vanishing Stair and Hands on the Wall, the last two books, I read those in like 3 days, in like a 3 day span, both of them, like started and finished second and the third book within 3 days because it was just go, go, go. And you're really sucked into the mystery. So that is on the list. After one's on Kindle. So these are kind of continuation, but also standalones in general. 100% I need to continue with the Star Wars series. That's that. The First Law, I did the first trilogy of the First Law. Now I'm on the 3 standalones, and then there goes the Age of Madness. So I need to get to the standalones in that between buffer zone. I'm not sure which one I'm going to get to first. I think I own Best Served Cold. I think that's the only one I own of those 3. So it's probably where I'm going to start anyway. So that one is going to be on the list at some point. Atlas 6. I just bought this. I saw it in another person's video, and while I was still watching the video, I bought the book. My wife has already started reading it. She's liking it. She was trying to tell me about it. At first, she was saying that I wouldn't like it, but couldn't really give me a good reason why I wouldn't like it. So as she started to tell me more, it does sound pretty interesting. It sounds like it takes place in the real world with magic happening in the real world. And I think there's a cost to the magic as well, which is always great to see, great to hear. I think it's a standalone as of right now. I don't know if it's going to actually, she thinks it's going to continue on. So it probably shouldn't even be on this list, but Atlas 6 as of right now, only that one's out. So you might throw it in. Next up, The Winter Road. This one, it seems like everybody who's reading it seems to really, really love it. I know John Gwynn loved it. And the author, I think Adrian Selby, has a lot of cool books that have been on my list that I've wanted to get to. So another one of those new authors that I want to try out. And I think Winter Road, because I've already owned it, would be a great one to try out because it is highly regarded with a lot of people. It might be one that would be a good atmospheric winter read. Winter Road, I'm sure they're going to be dealing with the cold if they are going on a journey in the winter in the woods and such. So that might be a good winter read for atmosphere. The next one, yes, I'm saying this one as a standalone because I only own the first one, and I'm going to treat it as a standalone because of reasons. And you'll know when I say this standalone that I want to get to maybe at some point, just so I know what people are talking about, is The Name of the Wind. And I think that's all I'm going to say toward that. Highly regarded with a lot of people. People love it. but there's not much after that one. So that's I'm just going to leave it at that.
I challenge you to a duel. I accept.
So Name of the Wind for one to just throw in one time. And because I want to keep up mentioning some Kindle Unlimited books, I have a couple here for that. Now, Dreams of the Dying, it is still on Kindle Unlimited. I believe it's a standalone. I'm not really sure since I haven't read it yet. So for those of you out there who have read it, if it's a series, let me know. But as of right now, there's only one of them out there, and it doesn't like list it as a series, like book one of or this series in parentheses next to it. So I'm treating it as a standalone. Dreams of the Dying. That is one that I would like to get to. When We First Learn to Question. This is a very, very low known self-pub book about alien first contact with aliens and an alien invasion. It's got really good reviews. I think the book, on Kindle Unlimited, it might be like a 3-book binding, like an omnibus type thing. I'm not really sure, but it has to do with alien contact and first contact with aliens. So those are always kind of fun to throw in. There's a ton of those out there, but I haven't read too many of them. I think there's one I read last year. I'm having a hard time figuring out how I have the Axiom's End or something like that. Yeah, so first contact book on Kindle Unlimited, if that tickles your fancy. Wolf Eater, I think this is supposed to be a series, but there's no site for the next one for a while. But I've heard really, really good things about Wolf Eater in general. I think there's like an outcast person, and there was mention of a disease. And it sounds like, I don't really know too much about it. Obviously, it sounds really, really cool though. And it's gotten a lot of praise in general. Then finally, War Peace 2036. This is a very low known book, but I found out about it from the self-published Discord area. There, the author was in there, and I saw him mention his book some, and I put it on my list. And it sounds really cool. It takes place in 2036, and they're gearing up for World War III. So it's kind of like a sci-fi ish in the future. World War III takes place in Scotland. I think there's supposed to be a battle or invasion between Scotland and Poland or something like that. And you're going to be in the views, I guess, of a group that's stationed in Scotland, and who knows from there. So that's kind of a cool, very different type of read than what you might be used to if it's a small scale type thing. There's plenty of apocalyptic type books, but one that's like hey, World War III, very small focused, where is that? Sounds pretty cool. So those are a lot of the standalones that I own that I want to get to eventually. Who knows when I will. Series kind of take over in general, but I'm curious what some of the standalones you have that you are interested in and want to fit in or own. What do you got? Well, tell me what they are, or maybe I'll add them to my list, and then my list can just keep on growing. If any of these are series and I messed up on, then feel free to let me know on that as well. But let's chat more in the comments of some standalones.